Welcome to Free to Speak, the New Zealand Free Speech Union podcast. If you enjoy the show, subscribe for uncensored conversations and free speech news from New Zealand and beyond.
Kia ora, and welcome to Free to Speak, the official podcast of the New Zealand Free Speech Union. I am your host, Dane Giroud, a council member of the union, and joining us today is Corina Shields. Now, Corina, I am going to leave it to you to introduce yourself, because as soon as I try to pin you down, you've moved on. So who are you and what are you?
So Corina Shields is my name. Most people would know me as Aunty Heihei from social media, but I have evolved over time, as you said. It started as a social media thing for me. Then I got a bit of writing in there for a while. And now I find myself as a radio producer for Radio Aotearoa. But the one thing that has always been consistent throughout everything is that I have always been the big mouth Māori that says things we're not supposed to say.
There we go. So we've got a big mouth Māori for you today, people. So Corina, a reason why I wanted to have you on, I mean, I was always going to have you on anyway, but I think that this new move into production, radio production, and being a producer is really, really interesting, because it really talks about the cultural moment we're in with the media. The media, arguably, pretty convincingly, has let Māori down, I would say, over more recent years, maybe since time immemorial. But there is technology now, and there are opportunities now. You took the opportunities with social media, as many other Māori did, and it's racked a lot of people up, hasn't it?
Oh, it has. And so for me, what I found 3 years ago with a lot of the things that I was saying, I was subject to a lot of bullying and online abuse from people. And that's continued out throughout the last 3 years. The disappointing thing for me is that Māori media have been some of the worst at bullying. Matthew Tukaki and Wāhine fully came after Shubz and myself for wanting to go out into communities and have conversations. And so we have been lucky enough to find ourselves in this position where we were asked, do you want to be part of radio? Do you want a show? And so Shubz jumped at the chance to be the host, and I jumped at the chance to be his producer. We work really, really well together, him and I. And so to be given this opportunity to step into this space and have conversations that not just mainstream media aren't having, but Māori media aren't having, that's a really big thing for me. And I am truly grateful for the opportunity that George Ngātai has given us with Radio Aotearoa, because what I'm finding is I don't always agree with the guests that we have on. People are they know what my views are on certain topics. But as a producer, it's my role to bring all voices to the table. And so I have organised for Georgie Dancy to come on, Tony Boynton to come on, people from the left. I want more people from the left to come on. Unions, I've invited unions to come on the show and have their say. So I don't have to agree with these people, and that's what it's always been about for me, about we need to have the hard conversations. And that was one of the articles that I wrote 3 years ago for Plain Sight, the need to have hard conversations, that Te Pāti Māori doesn't speak for all of us. And what Te Pāti Māori are showing us now is that they are a mess. They are an absolute mess as a result of John Tamihere's own actions, Debbie and Rawiri's own actions, and they are proving exactly what I said 3 years ago. Te Pāti Māori does not speak for all Māori, and there are some who are paid off to try and shut the likes of Shubz and I down. We are really, really fortunate to have this platform where we can run at these stories, bring things to light, and just have conversation. How do we fix things if we don't have conversation?
Yeah, that's great. Look, you've just given us a lot to chew over there. And where I'm a little concerned is that some of our audience may not understand some of the factionalism and just disagreement in Māori. So I think we've got to unpack a few things. So
Yep.
Who is Shubz? Because he's the presenter on the show that you are now producing on Radio Aotearoa. So who is Shubz and where did you meet him? Let's start there.
Okay, so Shubz is Shubz Live, or Mātou Wīkipa. He came over back from Australia in January. Him and I met online, and it was because he was starting to put out content that was similar to some of the content that I put out. And I stitched one of his videos one day about John Tamahere, and I said, "Welcome to hell," because I knew what he was stepping into by talking about John Tamahere.
When you started your social media stuff that led to everything that's happened, where were you coming from? What was the grievance? If we can narrow it down, what was the grievance? What would have separated you from a Te Pāti Māori sort of supporter, passionate supporter? What were the big points of difference?
With Te Pāti Māori is that I found that the essence of the party changed when the name changed. So the Māori party under Papa Peter and Dame Tari was a completely different party than they are now. The party they were was actually about the people. The party that exists today, Te Pāti Māori, is about John Tamahere and what he wants and what he can get out of it. It actually isn't about the people, because if it was, they would have dealt with the Mirea Mino Taku Te Whereas debacle a lot better than what they did.
So okay. So as an example then, what was that debacle? What was at the core of what was going on there?
It sounds like a whole lot of leadership issues and talk about money. Mirea Mino overspending in her budget, and she's claiming that she didn't. And so there's inconsistencies within their own leadership team and what's actually happening. And so if as a party you can't hold your own team together, then why are you trying to convince the rest of the country that you speak for all of us? Now, John Tamahere and Rawiri Debbie, they all come from south of the Bombays, right? They're all from down the line. Yet every year they go up north, they go up to Waitangi, and they cause chaos. Christina did it this year. Christina did Waititi. She went up there and did her little haka and her little disrespect. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realise, is that there are Māori on the ground. There are ahikā, those that keep the home fires burning, who are often overlooked. And the problems are swept under the mat because of the likes of John and Rawiri Debbie and the iwi leaders who take the attention away from them. Now, people go to Waitangi and you actually spend time with ahikā, with those that keep the home fires burning, you will find out that they are completely disconnected from those that claim to run the marae and are doing for the people. They are disconnected from those people because those ones that take the money aren't actually there all the time. They're not there for the tangi. They're not there for everything important that happens on the day-to-day. They just sweep in when the government says, here's some money. And that's my big problem, is that people on the ground aren't being heard because we're being told that our iwi leaders are leading us. Ngāpuhi don't want iwi settlements over the treaty for a reason, because they don't want the money to go to iwi. They want it to go to hapū, where they have a better chance of benefiting from those settlements. And then, of course, you've got people like me who don't actually care about a treaty settlement.
Oh, that's another can of worms.
And that's a whole other thing.
Process here. Yeah. So, well, that's saying to me that this is a class war, isn't it, within Māori?
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
And people want to blame Labour, and they want to blame National, and they want to blame the white man all the time, and they forget the issues that we have within Māori. No, I'm constantly told by people that I'm anti-Māori, and that is so far from the truth that it's ridiculous. But it's because I don't subscribe to other people's way of being Māori, and that's been a suck-up. I refuse to move on who I am and what I stand for. And what I stand for is tūturu Māori. You know? We don't have trans ideology as part of Te Māori, and I will stand on that hill until I die. We have sex-specific roles within Te Māori. Who are our kaikaranga, our wāhine, who sits on the taumata, who sits on the paipai, our men, no? But people think that women don't have a voice on the marae. We can shut the men down simply by standing up and singing. And so when I see the likes of genders, minority, Aotearoa, try and push out these things claiming that they're Te Māori, no. Hangi too with their kawhahaka and having a man stand in between both. No, we're not doing all of that. That is not our culture. We have sex-specific roles. Women are whare tangata. We are the ones with the wombs. We are the ones that give birth. And so I'm not anti-Māori. I just don't subscribe to government's way of being Māori, and that's what I found. The language, the culture has been bastardized, has been government. No, it's been messed with by government and pushed out there. And because I don't subscribe to that and others do, well, I'm the sellout.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have that concern as a Jewish person with the hate speech laws. One of the arguments I made is that if the government's deciding for us what is anti-Semitic and what is not, it could end up prosecuting Jews who are critiquing their own community. Same goes for Muslims too. A lot of Muslim reformers would be called Islamophobic by conservative Muslims. So the government would be taking a side, and normally it would be taking a side in a censorship debate with the most conservative voices in a way, or the most privileged voices. It's not really going to be the people like yourself who are on that ground level, and on that grassroots level, that are going to have the ear of government, who are going to be able to dictate it. That's why we need an open field, or else we'll never understand the diversity within these minority groups.
Exactly. And so that's why Shubz Says So is a really cool platform to be a part of, being part of that show and knowing and hearing the feedback from people that we are part of real change and real conversations. And we've had feedback like people don't always agree with our guests, which is great. Love that, because we shouldn't always agree with someone all the time, right? But what they have come back and said is, okay, I don't like that person and their politics, but I have seen a different side of them. I have seen a human side of them where we wouldn't normally, because like the media hates them so much. Brian Tamaki is a prime example of that. You know, people saw the hunter side of him that gives food away, and not just this person that the media have put out there as wanting to cross over the harbour bridge and being full of hate. And so it's been, that part of it has been really cool for me. And just to see the evolution from where I was 3 years ago and go, actually, what I'm part of now is everything that I wanted 3 years ago. I wanted the conversations to happen. I wanted people to, as good, bad, or ugly, I wanted these things to be brought out into the table. And we're part of doing that now. And so for me, I look at my entire journey over the last 3 years and go, wow, it's been one hell of a ride, but I am so grateful for where I am right now, because it's been worth it. Even the hardest parts of it have been worth it to get to where we are today.
It's interesting when you talk about Brian Tamaki, because when I met him out at Destiny for the first time, I know he's not from South originally, but he just struck me as a guy from the street, just very, we had a pretty deep conversation quite quickly,
Yep.
I talked about my growing up out there. I probably got a bit of a different understanding of what Destiny is able to achieve out there, because I know, like, some people say, oh, look at the guys that follow them around, they look like thugs. It's like, well, yeah, but you should have probably seen them 6 months ago or a year ago.
When they were thugs.
when they
were actually thugs.
yeah. Then it's a bit of a different conversation. But do you think, and just listening to you, it's just struck me, Do you think sometimes people avoid the conversation because they know they may be charmed by a character like Brian? They know they may learn more and go, oh, once I have that information and I like the guy a little bit even, I'm going to find it harder to go hard on him.
Yeah. And people are fearful of having conversations because they don't want to see the other side.
And so they don't want to see the human side. So it's like, let's just keep it surface. Let's keep him less than human is basically what they're deciding. Yeah,
pretty much. And for me, I'm just like, no, let's show all sides of it. Before we went on the road for iwi whakamahu for 3 weeks, Shubz and I had been in touch with the police so that we did everything right. And so I had a police officer come to my house. We sat down together and he asked me, what do you think of Brian Tamaki? I said, I can agree with some of the things that he says and does, and I can disagree with some of them. I said, it's foolish to think that we're going to agree 100% of the time with anybody. I said, I don't agree with my husband 100% of the time. What makes you think I'm going to agree with somebody else's husband? Like that. And so he's like, yeah, I actually agree with that. Like he had to give in to that because, how do you argue with logic?
Well, do you think, Corina, because where were you raised? Out west?
Out west. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm from south. I mean, they're different, but they have similarities. These places are melting pots. If you were really against groups and people and opinions and everything, you wouldn't last very long, would you? Because everyone's so different.
Yeah. West Auckland and South Auckland, as different as they are, they're also very similar. They also are big melting pots of people, and we have people of different backgrounds, and it's always been that way for us. I had Chinese and Pākehā friends and Samoan friends and Māori friends at school when I was in primary. And so this idea that we're not accepting or we're racist, no, racism is just a lazy argument to stop conversations. Because if we can throw a label at somebody, you're anti-trans or you're homophobic or you're racist, it just shuts down the conversation instead of allowing it to happen. I went to Nationals event last night. They had an event in West Auckland.
Okay.
And I went along to listen because, we got to give everybody airtime. And I didn't realize that Luxon was going to be there. And I was looking at him and I didn't meet Chris Pink. And I'm like, so what was that about the whole, the nuclear thing? Like, we should have those conversations. And he's like, I got in trouble for saying the N-word. And I'm like, I need to go and tell Chris. I need to go and tell him that we need to have these conversations. So I was like, because, okay, people can go on about nuclear free, but 40, 50 years have gone on since Hiroshima. Technology changes, clearly, because we're online right now doing this podcast. And so let's have the conversation. Chris Pink didn't say we're gonna support nuclear and we're gonna do all these things. He said we should at least have the conversation because our closest allies, being Australia, are gonna have nuclear and so there's nothing wrong with the conversation. Let's have them.
And I think where people get a lot of stuff wrong is that this wrong is that they think that like some conversations are settled and they're never going to come back. But if you look at history, conversations do come back. I mean, sadly, anti-Semitism is something that seemed to have gone away, but it's sort of coming back. So we're dealing with a lot of old tropes. And this is where censorship, I think, becomes appealing to people, especially in something like Holocaust. The Holocaust, they'll say, let's just criminalize deniers, basically, and it'll be done with it. But it won't be. It won't be done with it. We're going to have to relitigate a lot of different things time and time again. The idea that we can just draw a line in the sand and move on for good, we don't really get that choice. If people are inspired for whatever reason, or if the circumstances change, as the point you're making with nuclear, yes, the conversation will happen. And it's you can't just say to people, no, we had this conversation, we're done. That's just not the way life has ever really worked.
No, and it's not going to work if we keep trying to shut things down. And that's, again, the beauty of what we're doing with Shubz Says So is we've had people try and shut us down to the point that they got physical. They came and they stabbed up our tires on our van, and if they had the chance, someone would have taken Shubz out. Fortunately, he wasn't around when it all broke out. But that's how bad people wanted to shut down him and I from doing what we were doing. More so him.
That's really intense, Corina. So, there's been physical altercations and things.
Yeah. As part of this 3-week hiding that we went on, and it took half an hour for the police to turn up in Kaikoe. So it took half an hour for the cops to turn up. We've not had one word from them about anyone being arrested. We've given them videos. We've given them names, everything. So that was on a Saturday night. I had to try and find an after-hours tire shop on a Sunday in the middle of bloody Kaikoe. And it was really hard. But we were determined to get to our end goal. They wanted to stop us from getting to the end. They didn't want us in Kaitaia. And so we didn't stop. We kept going, and we made it to the end. But the system has let us down by not coming through. I've done at least 2 or 3 requests with police to get an update on the case. Nothing.
You should have sent that one our way. I think the audience might need to know a bit more about the hīkoi. So where did the genesis for that come from, and what were you wanting to achieve with this hīkoi, and where did you go?
Okay, so initially Shubz and I had talked about going out and having conversations in communities and going to marae and bringing in a bunch of different people to have these conversations. It morphed.
Conversations or wanting to persuade, or you were going to finish probably, so you carry on.
No, conversations. So we wanted to bring in people from the community, Pākehā Māori, everybody, to have conversations about what was happening within their communities. And we wanted people within the communities to be part of facilitating those. At the same time, we wanted to talk about some of the things that happen within Māori that aren't often talked about, like the abuse that is swept under the carpet. And so it morphed into, there was a group of us that decided we were going to go together on the road for 3 weeks across different places. And we did, some of them fell off. So because of dramas that happened along the way, some of them fell off. And it ended up, the core group of 4 that started ended up being 2 that finished, Shubz and I. And I always said that to him. Te mana o te wāhine me te mana o te tane. It's the mana of the man and the woman that is always important to everything in life. There's a balance to life, and it's a man and a woman. And so I said that to him. And so we finally finished that 3-week journey. We bounced across the North Island. So we started off in Wellington. We went to Ratana. We went to Ngāmotu, Tikuri, Taupo, Rotorua, Gisborne. We went up the coast. We didn't just go straight up the middle. Most people, when they do a hīkoi, or any kind of haringa, they start at the top and they go down to Wellington. We did the complete opposite.
So they can get those custard squares at the Flat Hills Cafe. Just out of happy. Yeah. That's what they want.
And so we did the opposite to everyone else. We went from Wellington up to the Cape, and we went like that across the islands instead of straight up the middle, because we realized that a lot of those people in those outer communities that aren't on the beaten path, so to speak, to Wellington, they get missed out on a lot of kōrero. And so we were able to go to a lot of these places, and people opened up. People that weren't intending to opened up about their own abuse, the things that they had been through in life, the challenges that they saw in life. We got to meet Councillor Robert Lee from Rotorua. He came out to our public event in Rotorua. Kahira Oli, she runs Save Our Babies in Rotorua. She's an amazing woman who does work with women and children and families. But they do it on the smell of an oil rig. And that was the thing about a lot of the people that we've met, is that the things that they do it because they're passionate. They do it because they have heart. They don't do it with government funding.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like Henry O'Keefe, who I sent to you.
Yeah.
He's in Flaxmere, and he's a community champion, and I did a documentary on him, like I told you, which is on Apple TV, actually, people, if you want to see it. Well over a decade ago now, probably about 12, 13 years ago, I did this documentary, and I was really proud of it. Spent time in that community, Flaxmere, which is kind of has a reputation of being the Māngere of Hastings, really, isn't it? It's that kind of, it's the hood. It's Struggle Street, and it has social issues, but he's just a servant of that community. And there are thousands of Henares out there. They don't get a lot of media attention. They don't get a lot of, no one's handing them the mic necessarily. They don't get profiled and stuff, but they're out there, these guys. And it's a little bit like the Free Speech Union, to be honest with you. Like, before I joined the union, I would have been cynical about the amount of change a group like this could make. But I think we've made more change than a political party can, in a strange way. And well, not even in a strange way. I think it's pretty clear, culturally, we have moved the dial a lot in a way that political parties don't seem to be able to. But community stalwarts like Henare and the people you're talking about are the same as well. They're like that too. They're the ones making change.
Yeah, they are. And so for me, it's really important to grab some of those voices and put them on the radio show with us. And we've had people that have been on the journey, that have been there with us on the road, who have come on the show and have shared about who they are and the things that they do. And then we've had others that didn't get to make it out on the journey, but we do know of the mahi that they do. And we've had them on the show as well. And we know that they don't get government funding, the likes of Esther Peters. No, she has the Triple R model, and she works with people who have come out of prison, and she's been doing that for a good 10 years without government funding, but it's working really well for them. And so it's trying to highlight those community voices as well, those people that are doing really cool work out there in communities and talking about traumas and things that people have gone through, because there are a lot of people who have gone through things and they think that they're the only ones who have gone through things. And we found that when we were out on the road, that there were just people who were never planning to speak, who just opened up about everything. And it's just like, wow, there was a lot of really, really powerful moments out on the road. It was heavy, definitely heavy. And I was ready to let go a lot of what we had picked up along the way because of what had come out from people. And yeah, it wasn't just people talking about their abuse and things. It was people going on about politicians and things that they had experienced within politicians. And I was just like, wow, okay.
What kind of things? Heavy. Like struggling to be heard and things like that? Or
and stuff around pedophilia and stuff around abusive MPs and things like that. So
can I pay my last lawyer's bill before I get you to talk about that?
And so we won't go into any details, but those were the conversations that people were bringing to us. And it got really heavy. And so to be where we are now and to have that continuation of what we had started on the road, now being able to take it to a whole nother level, is just mind-blowing to me. I'm just like, wow, because we were never planning this. That's the thing. It was never on the radar for us to be on the radio. As far as I knew, Shubz was going back to Australia not long after we'd finished hitting the road. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's not as quick as he thought it was, because he's got a show 5 days a week that he needs to run.
Yeah, well, look, it's just amazing that you've gotten into producing, because working in film and TV, I don't produce films, but I have produced some TV and podcasts with RNZ and different, so it's an interesting job. You're like the business manager, you're doing the bookings, because you'd be a one-woman show, I'd say, for most of this. And honestly, the people that you've been able to secure have been extremely impressive. So that really speaks to who you are and your ability to shake hands and connect and convince and persuade people that it'll be safe enough for them to air their views. I think that's really to be commended. But what surprised you about becoming a producer?
Everything, really. I think because it wasn't something that I had planned, I wasn't looking to be a producer. And so when it fell into my lap, I'm like, I did question myself quite a bit. Can I do this? Do I have the right stuff for it? And I'm just like, okay, we're just going to roll with it. We're going to see what happens. We're going to roll with it. And I got to a turning point a few weeks ago, and I just said, Shubz, you know what? I'm not the queen of your world, and I'm not aiming to be the queen of your world. But what I am is the queen of this empire that we are trying to build. And that's exactly what it is. We are trying to build an empire within media where we can have these conversations. And so for me, with that mindset, I throw everything at it. And it means staying up until stupid o'clock sometimes, you know, writing emails and then up again at the sparrow's fart to try and contact people again to keep things rolling, to make sure that we're ahead of the game, that we've always got the next day is already starting to be planned before, you know, and then it's keeping on top of the news. And there's a lot that goes into it. People don't actually realize how much work goes into it, because you're not just booking your guests. You're doing research into them. You're doing research into the topics that they're going to speak about. You've got to pull all the questions together. There is far more to it than just being able to send an email or make a phone call and get somebody on it. But no, I'm grateful for the last 3 years, because the last 3 years have given me a lot of people to go back to and say, hey, you want to come on the show? And who else have you got for me? You know, you're a prime example of that. D, who have we got?
Yeah, well, that's right. It's like your circle broadens, doesn't it? Because you're just reaching out to people you never would have given a phone call in the past.
Yeah.
And that is the exciting part about it. But I think what you're probably learning, which is what I did, is like I thought, oh, if I become a producer, I'll be smoking cigars and I'll be the businessman and I'll be saying, yes, I approve of that budget and where's more money and all this stuff. It's actually a relationship business, isn't it? It's like producers are creating relationships. Even in feature films, it's like they need a relationship with the actors. They need a relationship with a writer, with a director. It's relationships with theater owners and people like that. It's the people business. Yeah. It's actually the people business, you know?
Yeah. And so I'm really good at that side of it, the business side of people relationships. And Shubz is really good at doing the interviewing side of things and pulling stuff out of them. And so we have a really good working relationship, him and I. And I just am excited to see what happens from here in terms of what we do and where we go next, because I know that there's big plans, and I know that I'm going to get back into writing again, because I miss it. I miss writing. Writing for me is one of the things that I'm really, really good at, and so I do want to get back into that space again. I think for me, my confidence took a knock with writing purely because of the online stuff that was going on from, the likes of Trinder and Hudson. And I'm like, well,
just for clarity, these are like woke sort of trolls that were really giving
Yeah.
her a hard time at one point on
yeah.
X and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, huge. No, and they
are
were
they associated with Wātea, or they're sympathetic to Wātea?
they're friends of Joe's. They are of Matthew's. They're friends of Matthew Tukaki's.
When the Mikey Sherman thing broke, he wanted to have a crack at Annie O'Brien, obviously, like a lot of people did, and he wrote this piece on X, and it would have been on his Facebook and everything, and he was like, I have questions, and he was being a bit of a dick, and he's like, can people report on things if they weren't there? And it's like, yeah, it's called journalism. A lot of times it's like, so what happened? I wasn't there, but I'm going to write the story. I mean, but he's got a radio show, this guy. This is his level of logic and computing things, and he's got a radio show.
I know. It's crazy, right? And I'm just like, wow, how? How did you get that, Matthew? How did you get any of the positions that you've gotten? And as it turns out, it hasn't been because he's got the skills or the knowledge. And he's even admitted himself, like, he's a fake it till he makes it kind of guy.
A lot of people are like that. Like in the film industry, there are people out there who will call themselves a screenwriter, right? I've met so many of these people, and some of them I've known for 30 years, right? So it's like screenwriter, and they're on a board, and they're like going, well, they're teaching about this is the way it is and that. And it's like, oh, they're going to appear at the big screen symposium and all this kind of stuff and everything. And it's like, but they haven't done anything. They haven't done anything. It's nuts. It's like, whether you hate my work or not, like I have worked consistently for a long time. I have droughts like everyone in the business, but I've had some good runs. But I've got credits. But a lot of there are people out there that don't even have credits, but they'd position themselves with that, where they'd sort of look down on me a little bit, or they'd put that aura out there. It's incredible. But I think a lot of industries are like that. There's always that character like Matthew who sort of swans around and talks a good game, and then it's the emperor's new clothes. It just needs that little kid to walk up and go, hang on a minute, this dude is naked.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And that's the world that we find ourselves in today. And I'm just like, oh.
It's probably that's probably the world we've been in for a long, long time. I think these characters they're like an archetype, they've always existed. Just I guess we'd call them a bullshit artist, really.
Yeah, which is pretty much what Matthew is. And he's been one of our biggest banes with what's happened with our hāinga. He was the one throwing out all kinds of accusations and things going on about Hobson's pledge supported us. Well, there was nothing stopping Wātea and Te Māori supporting us going on this hāinga either. They didn't want us to have conversations.
Okay, well, that's interesting. So Hobson's pledge, because you do get a lot of pushback for this. Now, Hobson's pledge is not a group that I've explored terribly deeply. I tend to be a bit more standoffish when it comes to what I perceive to be anti-treaty stuff, because it's like I believe there is a partnership. I don't know what it's meant to look like all the time or anything like that. I have to plead a bit of ignorance, to be honest with you. But I don't pretend like I know it all, which is actually a shame, because I live in this country. It would serve me if I had more developed thoughts on the whole thing. But I have that instinct, like a lot of people probably would, to look at Hobson's pledge and go, "Ooh, I'll leave this over here." So what is it? What is that connection? How strong is it? What drew you to it, or were you drawn to it? I mean, is it even a real thing?
Okay, so
can you talk through that relationship?
Yeah. So Elliot Ekele is actually a friend of mine, and he has been since before he joined Hobson's pledge.
He's a good man.
He is a good man. And Hobson's pledge, for everything that people think about them, aren't as bad as people think. What they actually do support are treaty settlements. And Don Brash, we've had him on the show, and he's spoken about that himself. He does support treaty settlements.
He had the time of his life on Shubz's show, by the way.
He did.
He loves it, eh? He's got quite a happy wairua. Like, he's quite...
Yeah, he did. He had a good time. And so knowing that about Don and having the opportunity to sit down with Don and have a conversation, I said to them, like, that Māori wards thing that you did with that billboard and that lady with the mokoa, like, that was bad. It was badly done, because they should have always used within their own. They should have gone to people that they knew first, because when you're dealing with Māori, if you're going to put a stock image out there, you're going to have those radicals that are going to go crazy.
Oh, I had a situation happen like that in one of my comedies, Corina, where, and I even warned the producers. The producers were Māori, and I warned them. Like there was a character that was meant to be on a dating site, and they said, "Oh, we'll use this person, but we'll blur it." And I was like, I think there's a bit of a thing with Māori where if you use an image, you're putting that fictional view on that person, like they're not going to like that. They said, "Oh, it's got to be blurred." Amazingly, the whānau saw through the blur. I don't even know how they did it. I mean, this is just pretty wacky. It went to air, and the producers got dragged into a whakata Māori meeting, and they just got strips torn off them by about like a wider whānau, because the person had passed, and they were putting this character's vibe on them. It was look, if you saw it, the blur, I do not know how they picked up it was that person, but they did, and it really went sideways. But anyway, so that's my story. But similar situation, you're sort of agreeing, aren't you? You don't do that.
Yeah. And so, I said to them, like, that was not a good idea to do that. And so they said, like, would you sit down and have a talk about Māori wards? And I was like, yeah, okay. So I had a conversation, and they asked some questions, and I answered them. And Elliot was there, and people got angry, and they were so upset that I sat down with Hobson's Pledge to have that conversation. I'm like, well, it was better somebody that they knew than, to use stock images. I can take the heat. I've been taking the heat for a long time. All good.
So okay. So where would you find common ground with them, like in terms of their views? What do they agree with that you agree with?
One law for all. Okay. It's not as complicated as people think it is. They just want the same equal rights for everybody. And they're not seeing that within Te Ao Māori, and I have to agree with them. There is a lot of unfairness within Te Ao Māori, and people don't realize just how easy it is to be Māori today. It is a hell of a lot easier to be Māori in 2026 than it was for me in 1981. Because the opportunities that you have today within Māori, we didn't have those. I'm so much older than my siblings that I missed out on kohanga. I missed out on going to kura. But my siblings got to go to kohanga. They got to go to kura. They got to be on the kapaka stage, perform. They got to do all of that. And so now in 2026, which is even further on from when my siblings left school, in 2026, it is so much easier to be Māori. So this idea that people think that we're oppressed, we're only oppressed if we think we're oppressed. Oppression of the mind is worse than anything. Poverty of the mind is worse than poverty of the pocket. Because you can change what's in your pocket. But if what's up here is broken, if what's up there is empty, you're not going to be able to do anything. And so it's trying to change that poverty mindset that people are in so that they can make moves to change the poverty in their lives.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I was doing an interview the other day on RNZ, and the chap that I was having a little bit of a debate with, we were talking about Māori, and he finished off his segment. Lovely guy, but he ended by saying, well, listen to Māori, and he was sort of implying that I should probably listen more to Māori, but it's like, I said, which one? Which Māori? The academics,
Right.
the academics, I got to say, I'm going to just segue really violently, turn into the next lane on this, because academics really get me going. We were talking about Henare O'Keefe earlier, and people like the people that you met who are doing stuff on the ground in the community. I'd take the word of someone like that over an academic any day of the week.
Absolutely.
But these academics are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars and writing reports and that on like what should happen, and this is what I've learned, and this is what this stat says and what that stat says. And it's like, get rid of all of that crap. Just give me one henare.
Right.
I just think the whole thing, it's like you cannot understand a community by dropping in for 2 days, doing a few targeted interviews, then going out and then getting a whole lot of data, and then just writing this. That's what it feels like to me. And I just can't respect people like that. It's, if you're not from the street, if you don't understand the dynamics of the hood, truly understand it, I just don't think you can really contribute that much.
No, and it's not just there either, where academics have made a mess of things. You look at all the gender stuff that is going on. Academics are a big part of pushing that. They came out with the Beyond the Birds and the Bees app that, when it first came out in 2023, was in the Play Store for 3-year-olds. And that app talks about anal sex, oral sex, penis and vagina sex. It talks about all kinds of things that 3-year-olds shouldn't even know about. But these academics put it in the 3-year-old section, education section of the Play Store. And so I started an email campaign over that one. Eventually got changed to 12-year-olds, but even 12-year-olds don't need to know about sex techniques. And that's what one of those sections on this app is.
Well, Peter Boghossian, who was the visiting American philosopher and YouTuber that we had here for a few months, actually, he had a really good time. He wants the end of universities. They'll just shut it down, burn it down. And it's like, oh man, that's really intense. And he's like, well, universities have become a place where people teach false views. These things are all false. The things that they bring up are false, like they're not real. Judith Butler and that, gender is a social construct and all this kind of stuff. It might flirt with truth occasionally, but at its core, it's just not true,
No,
but that goes for even a lot of foreign policy stuff on Israel and everything. A lot of it is just objectively false. It's not true. So people are paying a lot of money to be lied to, and then to go out and spread the lies.
Yep.
And that's why academics have become, it's like our friend Mohan Dutta, like every time I criticize him, and, I've given him a hard time, but I've also written articles that have been very thoughtful, and I've got some real academics to help me that have really pulled apart what he has to say. And he'll say, I'm silencing him for doing that. I'm not
crazy.
silencing him. But
No.
if you're gonna put a lot of false ideas in the world, this is the thing with free speech. Expect people to respond. They're going to respond. You're not going to have it all your way the whole time. Even if you get your censorship laws, people are going to find a way. They're going to find a way to challenge you. Like the media has, I don't think, has played fair, and because of that, that's what's driven you to do what you're doing. You've done it out of necessity, haven't you? It's like, well, I better do this. It's an opportunity. I want to be heard. This is how it's going to have to be. If you had columns and stuff, you wouldn't have even done that. So the online new podcasters and everything are basically a creation of the media.
Absolutely. Media have done such a poor job that people have taken it upon themselves to become the media. We're seeing more and more citizen journalists out there doing their thing. You've got the likes of Simon Anson doing his thing as well. Cam Slater's been doing it forever and a day. I give major props to Cam. He was actually one of the ones that I had a conversation with a couple of years ago. And I said there's this talk about politics and me going into politics, and I've been approached, and what do you think? And so we ended up having this 2-hour conversation about politics, and he was the one that convinced me, actually, my voice is more powerful outside than it is inside. And I've run with that.
I'm convinced by that too. Like I feel like being a part of the Free Speech Union is we've got a lot of wins under our belts now, and I just don't. If I was a politician, I just don't think I would have be able to boast as much of what we've been able to achieve. I just think, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because people get so cynical about lobby groups like Jordan Williams and Taxpayer Union and everything. It's like, no, you want people, even if you disagree with them, you want people corralling, wrangling people with a view and giving them a channel to express their grievance over a political party. It's the political parties are the ones that are problematic,
Yeah.
They're the ones that can be sold to the highest bidder. But, a taxpayer union has to stay on brand, we have to stay on brand. All these groups have to stay on brand. That's the difference. And that's why I think we it's like, the shadowy. No, it's the political parties that are shadowy. We're the ones in the sunlight.
And the really cool thing for me with Radio Aotearoa is we are different in that we're not taxpayer funded, we're not iwi funded, so we're not having to jump through those same hoops that everybody else is having to jump through. So when people hear Te Reo Māori being spoken, or they hear Māori songs on Radio Aotearoa when Shubz is on, that's not because a box is needing to be ticked. That's just us being unapologetically ourselves, listening to the music that we would normally listen to, talking in the way that we would normally talk, because Shubz' first language is Te Reo Māori. And so,
you can be authentic.
We can be authentic, unapologetically Māori on air without having to tick boxes because we want the handouts from the iwi or we want the handouts from the government.
And Corina, if you're wrong, if you get something wrong, you are getting it wrong. You're not getting it wrong because the boss probably wants you to tell a bit of a fib at this point.
Yeah.
Or to
really
go
fortunate.
easy on that character. You're making that choice, or not even a choice. If you get it wrong, you can be corrected or whatever, but it's not something you're doing. It's your mistake. It's not a corporate mistake, Yeah.
No, we are unapologetically ourselves. And so that has been one of the best things about doing it, is George isn't trying to change us. He isn't trying to take away. If anything, he is really, really supportive in helping us to be better versions of who we are and what we're trying to do and how we come across to people. And so I've learned over time to pull back a little bit. I don't need to be as combative. I don't need to be as confrontational as I used to be.
George in my life.
It's been a learning journey over the last few months, and it's learning how to handle things within the system and doing it that way. And he's just an amazing man. And if you get the chance to ever spend time with him and understand how his mind works, he is just awesome.
When I come to Auckland, maybe I'll take a drive out west and you can introduce me.
Yeah. We'll get you to come over to the station.
Do it in studio,
Yeah. Why not? Might have to sit down and film a potty there.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. No, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, we've been going a while. How can people find you? I'm imagining you'll be a repeat guest, so there's no worries there.
Nice.
But how can people find you? Yeah, like the show, you know.
So the show is on Radio Aotearoa. The best place for most people is through the Rover app or Freeview 71. We also have that. There are some frequencies. Most of them are lower powered frequencies, so they don't cover the whole of Auckland. Like we've got Pukoe, Manukau, Tauranga, which is all of Bay of Plenty, Dunedin, Christchurch. So those frequencies are all on the website. But Rover and social media are the best places. Shubz Live has social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. We stream the show online 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock as well.
And because he's got a name like Shubz, SHUBZ.
SHUBZ.
Yeah.
Yep. SHUBZ.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, and the numbers going good?
The numbers seem to be going good. I keep an eye on the social media numbers, and I've noticed from the beginning they've gone double, triple from the start. And so, yeah, we've definitely got those core group of people that are on the same platforms every day, posting all their comments and things. But then we see lots of new people come in talking about, I'm a first time listener, and
Nice.
I do try and keep on top of all of the comments too, just so I can see where people are at with things and who else they want us to talk to.
Your audience is everything. Your audience is everything.
It's finding the guests that they want us to talk to as well. And
100%.
so that's been cool. Then we just had Rodney Hyde yesterday, and that was off the back of viewer suggestion.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's a really good guy. Yeah,
he actually was a lot of help for us. He helped me find information about John Samahiri and Hansard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should that be public information, or will
he already knows.
Bounty on him?
No, he knows. It was up on the station yesterday in the interview. Yeah, and so it's really cool to see these connections start to come together and people having really solid conversations as a result of the way things have changed lately. That they needed to change sooner, but we are where we are now.
Yeah.
So
we are.
Okay,
Corina, awesome to speak to you, and as always, and so keep on developing as a producer. We need more Māori producers.
We do.
You're taking the world by storm, and I love it. So
thank you, Dane. It's always good to catch up with you.
Great.
Thank you for listening to Free to Speak. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and consider sharing the podcast with others. We release new episodes regularly, and subscribing is the easiest way to stay up to date. If you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, you can contact us at podcast@fsu.nz. If you want to find out more about the New Zealand Free Speech Union, visit fsu.nz.